This is breaking news on WDSU.
When I walked around the backyard, didn't see anything, came up here, looked out in the flame. This thing was just roaring. It was gigantic, the flame.
Breaking right now, 7 people have been rushed to the hospital after an oil rig explodes on Lake Pontchartrain in Kenner. People nearby say they heard a loud boom, then they felt their homes shaking. Good evening, I'm Casey Ferran. We're going to start with this breaking news right now. A search and rescue effort is underway, and officials say at least one person is still unaccounted for. We have live team coverage tonight. WDSU's Travers Mackle is standing by at the hospital where victims are being treated. But first, we begin with WDSU's Tammy Estwick, who's at the Kenner boat launch. Tammy, what can you tell us about the situation right now?
Yeah, Casey, we spoke with Jefferson Parish officials a little bit earlier this evening. Now, they tell us this all started around 7:18 when they began to get calls from concerned residents who said that they heard what they described as an explosion. A lot of them also described homes shaking and their animals barking and cutting up. Now, later on, officials say they found out that an oil rig had exploded on Lake Pontchartrain. We do understand that 7 people were rescued. They are still looking for one person in Lake Pontchartrain right now that did not make it out as far as they know. Now, Sheriff Joe Lopinto says he believes 8 of the people were either on that rig or on a nearby platform when that explosion happened. We can tell you that that platform is a little over a mile from where we're standing right now. Here's what else they said about what they think the cause of this explosion may have been.
There was a statement put out that it was cleaning chemicals that ignited. Is that something you think
I believe that's, our investigation is going to have to figure that out. Our fire investigators are here on the scene. Once the fire is out, obviously, our Austin investigators, along with the Jefferson Parish East Bank Consolidated, will go out there and determine the cause of the fire.
First thing we need to do tomorrow morning, though, is to try to get out there, determine the extent of the spill, hopefully boom it. Maybe if there's a good deal of material, try to vacuum it up. The thing to remember for all of us, though, while this is imperative to get on it right away, it is not the Deepwater Horizon. Lake Pontchartrain's a shallow body of water. However, to remember also, it's an urban lake. If the winds did shift, it could start pushing stuff back toward us over here, and none of us want that.
Now, right now, you're taking a live look at the search efforts going on right now, right here behind me. Crews out here still searching for that one person that may still be in Lake Pontchartrain. I can tell you there was a huge show of force out here tonight. Everyone from the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office to St. Charles Parish. We understand the Harbor Police Department also bringing in a boat. And, of course, the Coast Guard out here. Everyone looking for this person that was in the water. Now, once again, tomorrow morning, officials say they do plan to update us again and try and get us more information about what happened out here. For now, I'm Tammy Estwick for WDSU News.
All right, Tammy, we'll check in with you a little later, but we do know right now 7 people were rescued and taken to the hospital. Again, one person is still missing. Crews are searching for that victim. Right now, WDSU's Travers Mackle continues our live team coverage from UMC where some of those victims were taken. Travers, what can you tell us about those who were rescued?
Well, Casey, I can tell you that their names are not being released, nor is the extent of their injuries. We don't know if they were contractors or worked for the parish. It's believed they were contractors, but all of that still part of the investigation at this time. Now, the reason 5 of those workers were transported here to UMC in New Orleans is because this is the area's only level 1 trauma center. Their injuries here are blast and burn related, but once again, we do not know the extent. 2 others were taken to EJ, that's in Jefferson Parish, that's East Jefferson General Hospital. Their condition much better than the 5 that were taken here. Obviously, doctors and the staff here treating these people as this is a level 1 trauma center. Now, before we were here at UMC in New Orleans, we were in one of those neighborhoods that Tammy was talking about. We were in Lake Chateau Estates. Residents tell us they have never seen anything like this, or for that matter, heard anything like this. They said after they heard the blast, they went outside and it was a gigantic ball of fire on Lake Pontchartrain. We caught up with one resident. Here's what he told us about 90 minutes ago.
And watching TV, I heard an explosion that I thought was in my backyard, and then I heard stuff hit the back of my house. It sounded like pebbles dropping out of the sky, and came up here and checked my roof out and make sure everything was okay. Nothing was on fire or anything. And out in, at the rig, the flame, it was just phenomenal how big it was.
And like Tammy said, as day breaks tomorrow, they will still search for a cause. It could be hours or even days before that cause is known. What they also talked about out there today in Kenner is the fact that they could have been cleaning. These contractors or workers could have been doing some type of cleaning on that rig that exploded. But once again, all part of this active investigation. And 5 of these crew members here at UMC, 2 more at East Jefferson General Hospital in Metairie. For now, we're live at UMC. I'm Travers Mackel, WDSU News.
All right, Travers, thank you. And as we're continuing our coverage of this oil rig explosion in Lake Pontchartrain, right now we have Jefferson Parish Councilman Chris Roberts on the phone. You were one of the first people to kind of report this to us here at WDSU. Can you tell me a little bit about how you found out about this situation?
Well, residents from the area had reported hearing a loud noise and an explosion from the Kenner area. It was concerning for residents, obviously, because of the proximity to the airport. So that's when the reports started coming in and first responders started responding and were able to find out exactly what was going on.
Chris, can you paint a better picture for us, for people who aren't familiar with this area? Where exactly is this oil rig in Lake Pontchartrain? How far from shore? Is it near a residential area? How close is it to an area that could be affected?
Well, it's from what I understand, it's very close to the shoreline. It's just to what would be considered to the west of where the Kenner boat launch area is, which also is close to the Pontchartrain Center and the Treasure Chest Casino. So it's out in that area there. Really, when you would be looking at it, you probably wouldn't be able to see it from the causeway, but more so from the Bonnie Carey spillway. So it's in shallow water. These are structures that have been grandfathered in for a number of years and have been active, and so it's not anything new that's been in the area, but it would be to the west of where the Pontchartrain Center is located.
Okay. Can you tell me any more about this oil rig, specifically what company may be running it, any kind of crews that were working on that rig, and what they may have been doing tonight?
Well, typically you would not have individuals that would be there all the time. So there was some type of work that was being performed there, whether or not it's maintenance or cleanup work or things of that nature, for them to have a crew that would have been on site. We're going to let the Coast Guard make determinations of when to release the information on who the owner would be and things of that nature. Anytime you have a situation where you're dealing with the production of either natural gas or you're dealing with the oil, things of that nature, just like we experienced back in 2010 at a much larger level, but the Coast Guard becomes the primary response to dealing with those issues. So I'm sure in the days to come, they'll conduct their inquiries and investigations, and all of that information will be released. Tonight, our focus has obviously been with the Sheriff's Office and other first responding agencies to be able to address those individuals who were on it, to be able to get them to area hospitals. Unfortunately, as of the last bit of information that we've got, there's still one individual that is unaccounted for. So that search and rescue continues to go on at this hour on trying to find that individual as well. Yeah,
it's certainly going to be a tense situation out there as they're continuing that search. Can you talk a little more about this oil on the water? How is this going to be impacting the shoreline? Will the weather coming in tonight kind of affect oil, maybe pushing it to the shore?
Well, we have our first cool front coming through tonight, so generally with that, winds pick up. So I would imagine that the water in the lake is going to be quite a bit more choppy than what it is now. There will be assessments done as soon as it's safe to do so to determine exactly what area may have been contaminated, and then it under federal laws and also state laws too, it becomes the responsibility of the operator to make sure that all of that gets cleaned up. So we're not as concerned at this point right now because our water for Jefferson Parish and also for the municipalities comes from the river. It does not come from the lake. Typically this time of year, you really don't have a bunch of recreational activities that are going on in the lake. So it's certainly something that will be prioritized. But right now, the focus really is going to be on trying to find that one last individual, and then in addition to that, making a determination on how to safely extinguish the fire and get the valve shut off so that any of the source of what's causing the fire is stopped. So that's what the focus will be in through the night, and hopefully it's not something that's going to be a prolonged event where it may be 2 or 3 days where it's got to burn itself out. But the cleanup will become the secondary issue once either the search and rescue or the recovery is concluded based upon the individuals that were working at this site.
All right, Chris, thanks so much for joining us. And of course, our prayers and thoughts are with those victims and the people still searching on the water for the one remaining survivor, hopefully a survivor. And we'll continue our coverage of this explosion and fire throughout this newscast. And we can also find more online at WDSU.com and continue to get updates and alerts with the WDSU mobile app.
Stafford with time, but not anymore. Sacked in the end zone. And looked like he dropped the ball for a moment. They're fighting for it on the ground. That was Alex.
Well, right now, the Who Dat Nation is probably feeling pretty good tonight after the Saints win 3 straight. It was a high-scoring, thrilling victory over the Detroit Lions in the Dome today, but this game was not for the faint of heart. Sports anchors Fletcher Mackel and Sharif Ishak join us from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome with all the highlights and the post-game reaction.
Certainly one of the craziest games I have ever seen, Fletcher, and I've been alive for 35 years. The Saints were in cruise control, up 45-10 in the third quarter. We were looking at our phones, seeing what the Saints could be down the line. And the next thing you know, this thing gets really interesting.
You don't look a day over 29, and Saints fans no doubt aged watching this game because Detroit came roaring back, down 35 points. They made it a game, and it was the Saints defense, not the offense, that bailed this team out. The Saints defense, for the first time in franchise history, 50-plus years, the defense scores 3 touchdowns in one game. And speaking of the Saints defense, they were opportunistic on Sunday against the Lions. They forced 5 turnovers and 5 sacks. The first turnover came in the first quarter and produced the first score for the black and gold. Alex Okafor with the sack in the strip. Kenny Vaccaro recovers in the end zone. 7-0 Hoodats.
And the Saints were just cruising in the third quarter, up 38-10. Stafford was picked off 3 times, including this one right here by the rookie Marshawn Lattimore. He returns it 27 yards to give the Saints a big 45-10 lead.
And then things got crazy, and I mean really crazy. The Lions just kept chipping away, and the Saints offense completely stalled out. When A'Shawn Robinson picks off Drew Brees right here, it's a 1-score game. The Lions have come all the way back. Saints lead just 45-38.
For so many years for this franchise, the offense would bail out the defense. But this time around, it's the defense bailing out the offense. Cam Jordan tipping the ball and catches it in the end zone. Saints 52-38. They would go on to win the game despite the struggles from the Saints offense.
The turnovers they created, that last play by Cam, I mean, that won the game. It was getting pretty ugly for us, but that's what we will need going forward.
Lots of sacks, lots of hits on the quarterback. That's huge for us, man. Build their confidence.
Our punt coverage stunk. It was poor. I thought the turnovers by us in the second half were poor. We did a lot of dumb things, but fortunately our defense did a lot of good things.
Even the last couple of years, it felt like we had a really good team. There was just some of those close games that didn't go our way, and I feel like this year we're finally getting over that hump and, winning these games and pulling them out. This one wasn't exactly close. We let them back in a little bit in the second half, but, it is good to get over that 500 mark.
As Tyler Davison just said, the Saints are over 500, the first time they've been over 500 in the regular season since the end of the 2013 campaign.
And Fletcher, that's almost 1,400 days. That's unbelievable.
But you know what? That is great news for a young team, young players that haven't had a great taste of success here in New Orleans to finally be on a 3-game winning streak and be winners for the first time in almost 4 seasons.
Next up, the Saints head to Green Bay, but will not have to go against Aaron Rodgers. Suffered a broken collarbone. After that game, they come back home to take on the Bears and Buccaneers.
And I don't want to get too far out in front of the schedule, out over our skis, so to say, but the Saints could truly be 6-2 at the midway point of the season. Almost unfathomable given the way this year started. A rout at Minnesota and a rout against New England. The Saints have a 3-game winning streak, and it could truly be 6 at the midway point of the season. For Sharif Ishak, I'm Fletcher Mackel, WDSU News.
All right, thanks, guys. And still to come, more on the breaking news situation in Kenner, plus the latest on the search for a missing girl from New Orleans. And this year's mayor's race in New Orleans will make history, but which candidate will be the winner? We hear from them both when WDSU News returns. And right now we continue to follow breaking news from Kenner as an oil rig has exploded on Lake Pontchartrain. It happened around 7 o'clock this evening. What we know right now is there is at least one person who is still unaccounted for. 7 other victims have been taken to local hospitals. Several residents that live in that area reported their homes were shaking from the blast. Multiple agencies are assisting in the search and rescue. We'll have much more on this situation coming up later in this broadcast. And heading for a runoff, LaToya Cantrell and Desiree Charbonnet will now turn their focus to a historic battle to be the city's first female mayor. Cantrell pulled out 41% of the vote in Saturday night's election, with Charbonnet right behind with 32%. And according to the Secretary of State's website, the unofficial turnout shows just over 82,000 people voted in the mayor's race.
Crime is the most serious issue facing this community. People need to feel safe again, and right now they do not. I've been all over this town. Everyone complains about the same thing: crime, crime, crime. The first thing I'm going to do is have a national search for a police chief. I am going to make sure that we have enough police officers, retain them, and then recruit aggressively.
Although those votes and those who voted got us to where we are right now, it's a fact. But the reality is, not all of our brothers and sisters in our city participated in this process. And they didn't do it because they didn't care. They didn't do it because they felt that they were not cared about.
And Cantrell and Charbonnet will face off in a runoff election on November 18th. And we are just 1 month away from that runoff. Later in this newscast, we will have an official WDSU hot seat, continuing our Commitment 2017 coverage. A political analyst will be breaking down the numbers from this weekend's elections and talks more about the different races on the ballot. And you can also view even more election results on our website. That's WDSU.com. You can also download the WDSU News app. And a 12-year-old girl who was reported missing is home safe with her family tonight. Priscilla Moretti was found this evening. The FBI got involved in this search for the girl after she went missing on Thursday. She had been seen in surveillance video in the 800 block of Dumaine Street around 7 o'clock Thursday night before finally being recovered today. And a SWAT roll in St. Roch ends with an arrest. Officers were called out to North Miro and North Johnson streets to investigate a suspicious person. Officials say when the officers arrived, they recognized a man who was wanted by the NOPD. That was 34-year-old Etienne Kager. When the police tried to stop him, they say he ran down the street and put a gun to his head. A SWAT team and negotiators were called to get him to surrender. He's now being held in jail on several charges, including armed robbery, second-degree rape, and resisting an officer. In Metairie, a man was killed in a 2-car crash last night. It happened at the intersection of Bonneville and Veterans Boulevard. The sheriff's office says the driver of a F-150 truck drove through a red light and hit a Mazda 3 car. The driver of that truck died at the hospital, and the second driver had minor injuries.
Who
is ready for a cold front. I mean, I am talking about a real cold front. Then as we go into the week, just a big heads up, rain chances are increasing for Sunday, and we're going to have to pay attention to that.
All right, thank you, Margaret. And after the break, we'll have much more on the breaking news situation happening in Kenner right now, where an oil rig exploded this evening. And right now we're continuing to follow breaking news of an oil rig explosion in Kenner. This happened around 7 o'clock this evening. We're going to first look at some pictures. Right now there are 7 victims who have been taken to area hospitals. 5 victims are at University Medical Center. 2 victims have been sent to East Jefferson General Hospital. There's also 1 person that officials are still looking for. Coast Guard is actually still in the water at the Kenner boat launch looking for 1 person who is still unaccounted for. We're told that those crews will be working throughout the night. Officials are also working to put out the fire that is still burning at that oil rig. No word yet on the cause of what started this explosion. Again, this happened around 7 o'clock this evening. Residents in that area reported hearing a loud blast and also feeling their homes shake as this was happening. These are pictures also from the city of Kenner. You can see the huge flames coming from that oil rig as this explosion was kind of at its worst earlier this afternoon. This is in the Lake Pontchartrain area near the Treasure Chest Casino. And coming up after the break, we're going to head back out to our crews who are live in the field to get you a better live update on what's happening there now. Stay with us. 7 people have been rescued and 1 person is still unaccounted for after officials say an oil rig exploded on Lake Pontchartrain around 7 o'clock this evening. We have team coverage on this tonight. Right now, WDSU's Tammy Estrick and Travers Mackel are both live in the field. Tammy, first, can you tell us a little more about what's happening on the scene where this explosion happened?
Well, right now we've been watching crews pull boats out of the water for the last hour or so. I guess they're getting ready to pack up, but they say finding this person is their main priority tonight and tomorrow morning. They do plan on continuing to search as long as they can. It is nighttime right now and getting extremely dark out there. They do have lights on the boats that they were searching with, however. Now, this all started around 7:18 this afternoon. 911 calls flooded in with worried residents saying that they heard some type of boom, things that they described as an explosion. A lot of them also saying that their homes shook and their animals started barking and going berserk. Now, later on, Jefferson Parish officials determined that an oil rig in Lake Pontchartrain had caught fire. We do not know at this time where all of the people, the 7 or 8 people that were on that rig, where they were exactly at the time. But we do know that they were rushed to the hospital, but 1 person still missing tonight. Here's what officials had to say about the oil spill.
Structures in Lake Pontchartrain are all at this point 20 to 30 years old. It will be a structure just above the surface of the lake. The one I think we're talking about is a storage structure. The others would have been feeding to it. So this was the one that would have been basically a small series of tanks on it.
So a hub?
A hub, yes. The central.
So is there a possibility that there's oil leaking into Lake Pontchartrain right now as we speak?
My appreciation is there is a potential of that right now, yes.
Now, once again, we do have people at the hospital tonight. For that, I'm going to turn it over to Travers Mackel, who's live.
That's right, Tammy. 7 people from that rig, basically contractors, it's our understanding. Their names have not been released. They are transported to area hospitals. 5 here at UMC, 2 more at East Jefferson General Hospital. The 5 here transported to UMC because they had blast and burn injuries. That's according to the sheriff. We know that UMC here in New Orleans is a level 1 trauma center. That means that they handle the most serious patients. The 2 patients who were transported to East Jefferson General Hospital in Metairie, according to representatives in Jefferson Parish, their injuries not life-threatening. And once again, no names or companies have been released. We should get more details on that in the morning. For now, we're live at UMC. I'm Travers Mackel, WDSU News.
All right, thanks so much, Travers. And we will continue our coverage of this explosion and fire online at WDSU.com. And you can continue to get updates and alerts through our WDSU mobile app.